What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to be doing part 2 of these shooters, the best shooter formations in the game, based on the heroes. This time it'll be focused on non-Season X heroes. So if you see the image on the right half, we're basically going to be taking the last formation from the left hand screen, the 9.4, and then going all the way down to regular orange heroes. Now this should help newer players more so, or players who don't have access to the Season X heroes. And like always, guys, if you have questions on lineups, or honestly anything else, please leave a comment. I've been helping people out, and that's that. So before we get started, it's super hot today. I live in California, so I'm just gonna crack open a nice cold beer, and then we'll get started. All right, perfect. So first off, I did explain it in the first part, but this final formation, Deus Ex, Wings of Liberty, and Hummingbird, the strongest formation excluding Season X heroes, and it's for a pretty good reason. So I had explained Deus Ex earlier. I'll do it very quickly. He's a defensive shooter hero, so basically he takes significantly less damage. He basically just has always consistent damage with his 5th ability. He's an HP hero, which makes him even more tanky, and then he also has basically another buff to make himself tankier, and then he has troop recovery. So he's a very good hero. It doesn't really matter if he's CC'd, he'll still be very consistent. And then we see Wings of Liberty, sort of similar. Wings of Liberty also has some recovery, but he does do a lot more damage. Like I was saying earlier, this is almost 1,000 damage, as well as a significant debuff to enemies. And we'll notice that he subtracts resistance, and I'll get to that in a little bit. His 5th ability is CC, so it disarms and deals pretty good damage. But this is only once, by the way. He has combat speed, so he is pretty much guaranteed to go first, which will decrease the enemy's resistance. And then his squad's his APC is able to do more damage. And then he also has more damage and a heal as well. So he basically just outputs decent damage, gives debuffs to the enemy, and has a heal. So you can already see we have 2 healing units, a tanky unit, and then we have Hummingbird. And as I had explained in part 1, if you guys haven't watched part 1, please watch that. I'm going over these very quickly, just so we can get onto it. But Hummingbird does a shit ton of damage. All of her moves are damaging abilities, essentially. Everything is just focused on damage with Hummingbird. So Wings of Liberty is going to go in, debuff the enemy's resistance, and then Hummingbird can basically go in and just do her thing. So yeah, even her 4th ability is different than other people's. I mean, I honestly don't know why, but they're given 60% increased might, 20% increased damage dealt, and she takes more damage, right? So this is just a different ability than most. Most people just get plus might. She gets plus more might, plus damage dealt, and takes more damage. So it's a very glass cannon. It basically means having healers alongside of her is really good. So like I said, this is by far the best formation for shooters, pre-Season X heroes. So now we're going to move over to the right side of the screen. These ones weren't ranked, so I from knowing how they ranked this sort of image, they had players with maxed bases essentially just fight on a resource tile and change up all their APCs, etc., etc. The ones on the right weren't tested thoroughly in this style. So we do have to rely basically just on theory crafted and an understanding of abilities and how they work. So the top unranked one is Deus Ex, Wings of Liberty, and the Professional. So essentially the same kind of concept. We have some tanky healers, and then we have the Professional, who basically just does damage. So similar to Hummingbird, he just does less damage, but all of his abilities are essentially damage focused. The Professional is also one of the Season 1 heroes who has an active on his 7th skill. So essentially, if you have full parts, you'll understand what I mean, but an APC can have an active skill. So when you use that active skill, it does this. Within 20 minutes after using that, this APC is granted 100% marching speed, 100% shooter's might, and obviously this has a cooldown, otherwise it'd be OP as fuck. But when it's not activated, everything is 30%. So 30% marching speed and 30% shooter's might on his 7th ability. So it's definitely interesting. In my opinion, this is better. Because, essentially you're only going to attack when you need to. And this will benefit that. But yeah, he basically just does a lot of damage. His 2nd ability, 40% chance to deal 558 to a single target. Pretty solid for a Season 1. Good percentage, there's no prep, and a decent range of 4. His 5th ability, 30% chance with a 1-turn prep to deal 566 to one enemy. He will also suppress them for 2 turns, so suppression is very good. They're not able to basic attack nor use an ability. His 5th skill, I have it level 1, but it's plus damage. I already mentioned his 7th skill is a little interesting. It is inactive. And then his final ability, his 8th ability, is a 45% chance to deal 486 to 3 random enemies. So like I always say, you take this number, you multiply it by the number of enemies that it hits, and that's essentially the damage that you get. So nearly 1,500 damage is massive. However, this ability will only have the opportunity to trigger on turns 2, 5, and 7. Which means on round 2, there's a 45% chance. On rounds 1, 3, all the ones that aren't listed, there's a 0% chance. So keep that in mind. This will likely only occur once per turn or per battle, potentially twice. And obviously, again, that's not really how probabilities work, but when you're taking something and if you run the scenario 1,000,000 times, that's basically how it's going to work. So moving on, we have Deus Ex, the Executioner, and then Hummingbird. So this is basically if you don't have Wings of Liberty, you can plug in the Executioner in the middle. So the Executioner is pretty cool. I did kind of talk about how the Inquisitor, who's another Season 2 hero, kind of needs the Executioner. But basically she has a 30% chance with a 1-turn prep to attack all enemy squads for 347 damage. And then she ignites them. So Ignite is kind of an interesting debuff, I guess. Or I guess it's a damage over time, really. Every turn, it's going to inflict 50% Ignite damage. It's just 50% damage. There's no specialty to this. What is special about the Ignite status is the Inquisitor, which I had explained in part 1, if you guys want to check that out. So this is good. What is 3 times 350? Yeah, over 1,000. So pretty solid damage there. Also, it is a prep and it is only 30%, but it's still good damage. So her 5th ability, for the first 3 turns, she reduces 2 enemy squads' damage by 75%. So that's huge. Also, there's a 90% chance to put the enemy to silence states. Silence is basically they just can't use active skills, or I guess it's noted as combat skills. They can still basic attack, they just can't use their 2, 5, or 8th ability. Her 6th is plus damage, so like I said, she's a damage hero. She gets plus might, and then her 8th ability is a 35% chance to attack all squads for 135 damage within the range, and she'll ignite them again. This ignite's more powerful. It's going to do 142 damage for 2 turns. So really you would add these 2 numbers, 142 and 135. That's nearly 300, and then, or actually you would multiply this by 2, sorry. So this is 300 over 2 turns, obviously, but this is 300, and then this is another, almost 150. So let's just say 400 damage, and then multiply it by 3 because we're doing this to all 3 squads. So 1200 damage on a 35% chance with no prep is pretty good. So yeah, you can see she's doing decent damage. She does have a debuff, as well as some CC, so she's an all-around pretty solid hero. I think she's a little bit underrated, but really if you don't have the Inquisitor combo, you're losing a lot of the benefit to ignite damage. So, and then obviously we have Hummingbird. Hummingbird is just a very, very good hero. If you have her, you should basically be using her, unless you're in Season X. Otherwise, pretty much just always put her in the back line. So if we move down one more, we see Deus Ex Ironguard and Hummingbird. So Ironguard is a orange hero. He's basically the same as Razor and Militant. So he's a little harder to unlock. And he gets more stats, essentially. Anyway, his 2nd ability, it's a 50% chance with a 1-turn prep to deal 641 damage to the enemy squad with the least amount of units. So this is a kind of specific attack. I think only Ironguard does this, or does these type of attacks, where he picks the enemy squad with the lowest number of units and then attacks them. Essentially, he's looked at as sort of like an executioner, where you're targeting one particular squad, and this is very good, because essentially, if you wipe out a squad, right? If you defeat all the units, they can't do anything. They're not using any skills. They're not basic attacking. They're not doing anything. So it's very beneficial to knock out one squad. You will see some formations that basically try to target either the frontline heroes or the middle heroes, to kind of wipe them out immediately. And Ironguard kind of already does that for you, so he's a pretty solid hero. His 5th ability, there's a 50% chance to deal 136 damage to 2 random enemy squads. So yeah, again, just multiply this by 2. A little less than 300, but it's a very good percentage. Additionally, he's granted a 30% bonus damage for 2 turns. So you can pretty much think of this as after round 1, this bonus damage will be on for the rest of the round. Like I said before, resistance and might, it's 35%, so he's better than a normal orange hero. Also, his damage, his 6th ability is damage. He's given more might at 35%. Briefly had to pause there, but continuing on with Ironguard, his 8th ability, 40% chance to deal 394 damage to the enemy squad, again with the least unit count. Additionally, they take 18% more damage for 2 turns. So this is similar to his 2nd, and I had already talked about the importance of this, or not necessarily the importance, but the advantage to this. So it's hard to look at on paper, but it is better than it appears. So yeah, Ironguard's very good. He can be put in the backline as well. He has effective ranges of 5 and 4, so he will reach the enemy backline. But in this case, Hummingbird, like I had mentioned before, is arguably the best pre-Season X hero. And she should be in the backline because she obviously takes more damage and she's more valuable. So yeah, moving on, we see Wings of Liberty, the Inquisitor, and the Executioner. So this is finally the combination that I've been talking about. This combo would really only, you would only see it if pre-Season 4. Sorry, that's what I was trying to say. So if you don't have access to Deus Ex, you don't have access to Hummingbird, you're only on Season 3, then you would see this combo. It's still pretty good. Well, it's very good if you're under Season 3. If not, it's still pretty solid. You'll still beat a lot of people if you have, full golden parts, full tech. So it's still decent. There is good synergy there. Moving further down, if you're only in Season 2, we have the Cincinnatus, the Inquisitor, and the Executioner. So Cincinnatus is a defense shooter hero. Maybe it says support here, but basically he buffs his own team to dodge. So yeah, that's kind of what he does. Each squad of the friendly APC will be in a dodge status in the first attack for the first 4 turns. So this means basic attack or combat attack. You'll just automatically dodge, and then subsequent attacks on that APC, on that squad they will get hit by that. They won't dodge it. Also, every turn has 70% chance to obtain minus skill damage for enemy troops. So this is pretty cool, right? You buff your own team, you give them the opportunity to dodge for the first 4 turns, and every single turn there's a percentage to basically just debuff the enemy, each enemy squad actually. So pretty good. Yeah. This only has an effective range of 2, but it's friendlies, so it doesn't really matter. His 5th ability, I should just mention this is 50%. S1 and above are 50. All the regular orange heroes are less. So yeah. His 5th ability, 30% chance to deal 549 damage to a random squad within the effective range of 2, so he can only attack the front or middle if he's placed in the front. And he'll reduce the damage taken from vehicles by negative 30%. So I had talked about this in my vehicle APCs, but this isn't really important, this second piece of the skill. Shooters already counter vehicles, and it's very rare for a vehicle APC to actually beat a shooter APC, so this won't really do anything. But yeah, it's there. It's just an additional. The main purpose is 550 damage with 30%. It's just decent. He gets HP plus 15. That's why I'm saying he's a defensive hero. And then basically when there's 3 shooters, there's 3 squads of shooters. On the first turn, 2 random squads will increase 60% combat skill damage for 4 turns. So this is just all around a decent buff. It could go on himself, it could go on friendlies, or on the 2 others, or, So basically just debuffs, buffs, and then does decent damage, I guess. So yeah, that's the Cincinnatus, and then you pair him up with Inquisitor Executioner, which is the best Season 2 sort of shooter heroes. Moving one step further down, this is the Season 1 combo. We'll see the Cincinnatus, we'll then see the Forsaken one, and then the Professional. Forsaken one's just a normal orange hero. I think he's actually the best normal orange hero, him or Shoot-A-Man. And in this lineup, I think you could put Shoot-A-Man you could basically replace the Forsaken one with any of the good orange heroes. So, in my opinion, Forsaken one, Shoot a Man are the best. Destroya is probably the second best. Dawn Guardian's decent. Arsenal is decent. So yeah, that's how that goes. Forsaken one, his second ability, there's a 40% chance to deal 400 damage. And then he also causes a weakened effect, so the enemy deals minus 50 damage for 1 turn. This skill basically is why I think he's good. This weakened effect, even if he doesn't do terribly much, he's debuffing the enemy, which is important. Like I said, he's a normal orange, so it's only plus 30 resistance and plus 30 might. His fifth ability, 35% chance to deal 540 damage to an enemy squad within range, and then he silences them. So this is very good. They can't use skills, so they're 2, 5, or 8th skill. They can still basic attack, but they can't use skills. And this is pretty high damage. He gets plus HP. Like I said, he's pretty much a defensive hero. You generally see him in the front line. And then his 8th ability, 30% chance to deal 420 damage to 2 enemies, so 840. And he silences them for 2 turns. And then, yeah, his 7th ability is Harden, so he gives HP. Like I said, the fact that he's giving HP is also very important, because Cincinnatus gets HP, he gets HP, so you're just increasing that count. It's very good. So yeah, he has good CC, he has good debuffs, and he has actually pretty substantial damage. And then you have the Professional, who I had mentioned before, basically just does a lot of damage. So that's that. Moving down, and obviously, you know, if you have the kind of better heroes, I guess, you can use them. But like I said, this is for kind of the Season 1 combinations. Moving down, you'll see the Janissary, Destroya, Ironguard. I think at this point, the creators of this list are kind of just putting in heroes here. There's no real reason to have this combination over, I mean, unless you don't have Cincinnatus and the Professional, then you can do it. I can't even find Janissary. Yeah, I guess it's Season 1. So the Janissary, 30% chance to deal pretty good damage to 1 enemy. There's a 40% chance to deal 305. And then he buffs everybody's the counter vehicle, which again, like I was explaining with Cincinnatus, is pretty much useless. So really it's only 40% for 305 to 1 enemy. Not that good. He gets combat speed, so he goes first. But I mean, that's not very important, honestly. He doesn't have any CC or anything like that, so I mean, it's basically just for this, to activate this first, but like I said, it doesn't even matter. And then exactly the same as Cincinnatus, when the hero is in a formation with 3 squads of shooters, starting at the 5th turn, 2 random squads will increase their combat skill by 60%. So that's that. Then you just have Destroya and Ironguard. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of just plug and play at this point. Ironguard's definitely the best shooter, regular orange hero. So that's, I mean, if you have him, put him in no matter what, you know, under a certain level. Janissary, I mean, is worse than Cincinnatus, so yeah, but if he's all you got, he's all you got. And then moving below, I mean, they're kind of just, yeah, plugging in orange heroes now at this point. I do think the bottom one is a pretty solid combo for regular orange heroes. Funnily enough, I don't know why I keep clicking. Funnily enough, that's actually my, I actually have an APC for that. Destroya, Arsenal, and Dawn Guardian. This is particularly in Eden for taking tiles. Dawn Guardian's not the best, but you know, he was all I had. If you guys are interested in how to take tiles better, I could definitely do a video. I would put Reaper in there as well, but yeah, let me know if that's something you guys are interested in. Otherwise, this pretty much rounds it out. Like I said, if you have a mixed bag of these heroes, hopefully this covers everything. But if you have a mixed bag, and you really want specific answers, please leave a comment. I will mention, since a lot of people ask, sort of what is the skill order, when unlocking heroes, skills, which ones should you get first, if you get duplicates. I'll definitely be doing a video on that kind of as a whole. So stay tuned for that. I'm also going to be doing and releasing the Fighters APCs guide, as well as mixed APCs. And I hope you guys are excited for the mixed APCs. I think it's really cool that that's something that players are now using, and it's something that players can use because it's so good. So yeah, stay tuned. Hope you guys enjoyed, and have a great day.